Ormund Hightower was finally introduced to us on episode 4 of season 3 for House of the Dragon. And what do we learn about him so far? He is a religious zealot. He is a certified crash out for sure. And he is manipulating Daeron Targaryen to steal the throne basically from his other two brothers and do a full usurpation. And I gotta say, I gotta respect the game from him off the bat. Evil fucking man. Evil. Pure evil. They established that beautifully in this episode. And going forward, I'm definitely here for it. Hello and welcome everyone back to the channel. My name is Ryan. Today we are going to be talking about spoilers for Season 3, Episode 4 of House of the Dragon. Before we get started though, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate it. And let's get started. So I gotta say off the bat for episode 4 of season 3 for House of the Dragon, I definitely enjoyed it actually more than last week's episode with the POV style for just focusing on Rhaenyra. I thought this episode, although I still enjoyed last week's episode, this week I really enjoyed kind of like the chess pieces moving for all of the political maneuvering going on. It feels very much like classic Game of Thrones. Going into different locations again, going back to different characters, how pieces on the board are playing for Team Black and Team Green. We finally get back to Kristen Cole after he had only about one scene in episode 1. And he kind of just vaguely disappeared for the last 2 episodes until they kind of sporadically showed him and his men just like marching, meandering through the forest. And then we finally get to see him in Harrenhal with Gwaine Hightower, probably the most sane member of Team Green, aside from Daeron. Poor Daeron, though, he is literally living underneath Ormond's full-blown thumb, and it's tragic to see because, you know, the very little time that we finally get introduced to him, which I don't know why it took him this fucking long to introduce Daeron the Daring into the show, but the fact that we got him now, I gotta say the characterization of him is really, really, really interesting. Definitely different from Fire and Blood, but I'm wondering if they're kind of like, they're sowing the seeds of the terrible or kind of somewhat morally gray things that Daeron is going to be forced to do for him to start to be molded into the character that we know him from the book, or if they're just going to do a completely different turn for him and kind of humanize him a little bit more because he's not as prominent really as a character in Fire and Blood. Yeah, he does certain things, several different war crimes for different battles, but I'm really interested to see what they're going to be doing with him going forward. Great young actor too, and I'm curious if we're ever going to see his silver hair or if they made the change that he just has auburn hair like Alicent, which would definitely be an interesting change. But I mean, we've seen that before from other Targaryens in the show. I mean, Jace and Luke and Joffrey, even though they are bastard children, they still have the Targaryen genes in them, and they came out with brown hair from their bastard baby daddy father, Sir Harwin Strong. So I'm wondering if maybe that Ormond is actually making Daeron just dye his hair because he's trying to suppress that side of him as a Targaryen, because at the end we finally kind of know more about Ormond as a character. I mean, I think this episode I think it built him up extremely well as like, all right, this is like our central antagonist now. I mean, everybody in the show has evil qualities. I mean, it's very hard to shy away from it. Everybody in the show is all fucked up in their own certain way. Everybody's got a little bit of good, a little bit of evil in them. But the fact that they're setting up Ormond this way is really, really interesting to see how, you know, he takes over Tumbleton, and, you know, we get to see Hugh the Hammer's wife, the writer of Vermithor, in Tumbleton, like she said she was going to go, and how she almost gets assaulted by some Team Green Hightower soldiers in her house with her brother-in-law and her sister-in-law. You know, they have that whole, the Third Amendment of the Constitution, no soldiers shall take refuge in your own houses. That was like a big thing in the American Revolution, and the fact that, you know, they kind of incorporated that into this episode with the Hightowers taking over Tumbleton was really, really interesting. And, you know, we think that Ormond is going to be an upstanding guy because he does end up punishing the soldier who tried to assault Hugh the Hammer's wife, Kat, and breaking fucking her sister-in-law's arm for trying to defend her from this asshole trying to sexually assault her. A lot of sexual assault this season, I have to say. It's very strange. The past like 3 straight episodes, there's just been a lot of sexual assault in it, which the original Game of Thrones was prone to that. I mean, even in the books as well, sexual assault and all that it's prominent. I just find it strange that like 3 consecutive episodes were like really like sending it home. I guess it is part of still real history, which, you know, George R. R. Martin does take from, but I don't know. I feel like it's getting a little tired the more they keep doing it. Sometimes it just feels like it's shock value also, to be fully honest. But at least with this, it does have a payoff because Ormond, you think he's a good guy. He ends up punishing the soldier, saying, "Oh, you will be gelded and you'll have your own arm broken." But then in the end, when he's with Daron, he brings Kat's brother in and is like, "You have to kill him now. He's an extension of the crown, and he hit one of our soldiers. He's an extension of you now." And he does like a full fucking Palpatine moment with him, kind of where he's just like, "Do it, like." It was interesting to see, and it just really showed just how evil Ormond is and how manipulative he is, and like kind of this overarching like abusive father figure in Daron's life. There's especially the moment where Ormond gets the input where Ormond gets the Raven saying that Aemon and Vhagar won't be joining them at Tumbleton, which means they're basically fucked. All they have is Daron's little dragon Tessarion, the Blue Queen, and she's not that fucking big. She's still a baby dragon. Well, not a baby, but she's still able to ride. Like she's maybe like the size of like a large stallion horse, but still not enough for going against Rhaenyra, who has 6 dragons. And once he gets that information, Daron immediately picks up the air shift in the room, and he tells the other servant, like, "Get the fuck out of this room right now," because Ormond is a certified crash out, and we see him just pull out his fucking sword, and he just starts whacking at the table, and then immediately resumes himself, goes back to temperance, and he's just like takes a couple deep breaths in, and he immediately goes back to normal. And Daron and his other knight, Bold John Roxton, they don't even look that fucking surprised by it. Like this is definitely like an everyday occurrence for them with Ormund Hightower. So yeah, fantastic setup for him as a character and like our new player, our new villain in the story. It's interesting too because they talked about him, James Norton, at least the actor who plays Ormond, comparing him to a bit of a Tywin Lannister kind of figure, and I can definitely see a little bit of that. I think Tywin might have had a little bit more temperance in the way he handled certain things, but he was still like a ruthless, cunning character, and he did actually use Joffrey in the original Game of Thrones series as a puppet king, which Ormond is trying to do to Daron right now. He's trying to put him as the figurehead so that Ormond can run the kingdom himself. I mean, we see Daron literally calling Ormond sire. You don't call anybody that but the fucking king. And the fact that Ormond sees himself as the king already just shows everything about his character, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm really excited to see what comes forward with him in the next coming episodes, how they're going to develop his character and what's going to happen in Tumbleton. Because if you know Fire and Blood, there's 2 big occurrences that involve with Tumbleton that is catastrophic, to say the least. I'll just leave it at that. I won't go into too deep on book spoilers. Another thing that was really interesting with Team Green, which I found really fascinating, was the fact that we were following Aegon and Larys, on their little merry band adventure, trekking through the woods. They finally come across Sunfire's body, and they keep hammering home that, oh, Sunfire's dead. He's long in the decay. They keep saying he's dead. He's dead. He's dead. Is he, though? Because if you know the source material, Sunfire does, spoiler, Sunfire does come back. In the book, they do think that he's dead, but he does come back, and they're like, how did he survive? I mean, he's still mangled from his fight with Meleys at the Battle of Rook's Rest involving Vhagar and getting burned by Aemond and Vhagar pretty much. But eventually, they do come across his body, and although he is pretty mangled up, his body isn't rotting. There are flies around him, but that's something like even cattle are. There are always flies around cattle and things like that. So I'm wondering, it seems like they have Sunfire kind of like in a deep coma state where he's almost like crestified himself, where he's like rehealing his body, which I think would be really interesting to add to the dragon lore, which I find really, really fascinating. And to kind of see the bond that Aegon had with Sunfire, or still has, is super fascinating because we don't really see Aegon kind of that close with anyone except for his dragon, which I find really interesting. And I think that adds like such an interesting layer to his character because, other than that, Aegon, he's a fuckhead. Like he sucks. Like he grapes women, he drinks, he has a fuck ton of bastard kids he doesn't give a shit about. He only really gave a shit about his son, Jaehaera. He's married to his sister, which Targaryen thing, but he still ignores her and treats her like shit. And kind of seeing this bond that he has with Sunfire it just adds like a new element to his character that I find really, really fascinating. And I'm really enjoying the arc that Aegon and Larys are going on. I think it's gonna really pay off at the end of the season. And if my predictions are correct, and it seems like it is that way, because there are some still shots from the trailer where it looks like a certain golden dragon might be coming to the rescue of one burnt, crispy Aegon. So that's going to be exciting to see. And again, Tom Glencairn is fantastic as Aegon. He's such a shithead, but he always finds a way for me to kind of garner like a little bit of sympathy for him, and then it kind of drops back down, especially when him and Larys have to play the part of wandering men coming across the the remains of Rook's Rest Castle, and this jerk off lord has taken it over, and they have to basically be the ones to work the latrines in order to get like a tent to survive and have a little bit of shelter and some food. And Aegon, when he push comes to shove, he immediately goes to pretending like he's the king again, like he's royalty. But the thing is, nobody knows who the fuck you are, bro. And immediately when he does that, he gets shit on, and he has to be humbled. He immediately has to literally kiss the lord who is the bandit who's running the environment at the remnants of Rook's Rest, and kiss his shitty fucking boot. And that's what he deserves. And that's going to be an interesting thing for him. It's a humbling experience, because Aegon was all the way up here as the king. When he got burnt by Meleys, when he got burnt by Vhagar and Meleys, that was him immediately falling from grace and him having to kind of rise back up, which I'm really excited to see. Going back to the Red Keep, Rhaenyra, she's still struggling. She ended up appointing Dave Fogler as a Master of Coin. Torrin Manderly is pretty cool. We got an American on House of the Dragon. Finally got it on a Thrones verse universe. Well, I guess Peter Dinklage too. Also, he's famously is American, but for so many years I thought he was British until I found out he wasn't, which I thought was pretty cool. But Rhaenyra is struggling. Her council is still just in despair, not knowing exactly what to do. She's still obviously grieving Jace. Corlys just fucks off. He leaves after the whole debacle with Adam and Alan not getting legitimized by her. And Alan is pretty much forced by Corlys to stay in the kingdom and kind of like represent him in the court. And Alan, he's completely out of his element, but he doesn't end up proving himself because they end up giving a plot line from Otto Hightower in the book where all the Red Keep is filled with rats. So he brings in 100 different cats. They didn't have Otto do that because his head is fucking cut off right now. But instead they have Alan, who's like, on the ships, we used to keep cats on there. And him and Rhaenyra have a look to each other like, oh shit, like looks like Alan can actually be useful here in the court. Since his whole life he's been a soldier, so it's going to be interesting to see him kind of weaving his way in there and what he can provide to Rhaenyra, because so far her counsel has not been the greatest. And also Rhaenyra, she is definitely teetering the line of being Rhaenyra the Cruel, like from the book. She's definitely teetering the line of just going full blown scorched earth and just fucking shit up constantly. Last thing I want to talk about, which was personally one of also my favorite elements, aside from the whole Ormond build up of his character with Daeron and Tumbleton. I really, really loved that we got to see Daemon in the Vale, treating with Lady Jane Eyre, seeing him move politically, because if you know Daemon, he's a soldier, he's a wartime general. He's not the greatest at politics. So to see him talking with Lady Jane Eyre, where, in the Vale, where he murdered his first wife, Rhea Royce, to see him treating with her, getting the gold from her. I gotta say, Lady Jane Eyre, her fucking style is fantastic. I feel like half the budget of the show went to Lady Jane's wardrobe, because every time I see her, she is just decked the fuck out in the nicest velvets, the nicest blues, like just so many nice colors. But it was really interesting to see Daemon politically move around, and he actually did manage to get money from Lady Jane Eyre, since she didn't send Rhaenyra the army that she promised. And then when he's out there, Caraxes is fucking losing his shit. He smells something's going on with him. He's going crazy. It was really funny to see Daemon kind of slap Caraxes with his glove like a bad dog. He's like, hey. So that was really funny. And Caraxes, for the first time ever in the show, we see him disobeying Daemon for the first time ever. Every time we see this motherfucker, every time we see this long neck noodle dragon, the bloodworm Caraxes, he is always obeying Daemon. Daemon pretty much has Caraxes on autopilot all the fucking time. He doesn't even have to say Dracarys. We've never heard Daemon in the show say Dracarys, but somehow psychically, from dragon lore that we know from the book, Daemon, Caraxes always knows when Daemon wants to fucking Dracarys somebody. They're so in sync. But the first time ever we see this, we see that Daemon loses control of Caraxes, and Caraxes ends up doing his own thing because he smells Sheep Stealer and Rhaena. So he brings her to the cave. He brings Daemon to the cave, and Daemon finally finds Rhaena and Sheep Stealer. And the fact that the first time we finally get to see Daemon be fatherly to his children, I thought was a great progression for his character, to kind of see him very warm and tender to Rhaena, and to be like, why did you do this? You fucked this up. Like, what are we gonna do? We need to hide. We need to hide you. We need to get you away. We need to make sure Rhaenyra absolutely knows nothing about this. And Rhaena's like, no, he's my dragon now. And now you care? Like, you never gave me a second thought when I was younger or before I even did this. So I will remain here in exile and just let me go, Father. I never asked you of anything of this. And for the first time ever, we truly see Daemon like shattered. Like, he's heartbroken, and he's flustered, like he's nervous. He's like, let's just go to King's Landing. Let's talk to Rhaenyra. I'm sure we could figure something out. I'll back you up. Like, we'll get this all situated. And I thought that was such an interesting element to add to his character, because for me, like, I'm a huge Daemon fan. I love the character. I think he's just so fascinating. And they keep adding new layers to him that every time they do, and especially Matt Smith also, like, he's just a fucking top tier actor. He's so good. The fact that they keep adding these new elements is just so interesting to add to him, because they continue to make Daemon such a versatile character, and which is why to me he's just the best character on this show, point blank, period. Not to say the other characters aren't, but there's something about Daemon that, like, he's the best. He's the man, the Rogue Prince. He's the fucking greatest of all time in the Song of Ice and Fire. He's one of the greatest. I'll say that, because there are a lot of great characters. He's one of the greatest in the Song of Ice and Fire universe for sure. All right, guys, that is going to do it for my spoiler review of House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 4. For my rating, I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10. That's my rating for this. Definitely liked it more than last week's episode. Still enjoyed last week's episode quite a bit, but this one I feel like was a really good return to form, and I'm just excited to see where all the plotting ends up going forward for the next episode and the next coming weeks. So guys, please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care.